So today I'm going to be taking a look at the Motorola Edge 40 Neo, a budget phone released in September of last year and offering some nice upgrades over the Edge 30 Neo. So I'm just going to look at the phone now, see if it's worth buying in 2024, and let's take a look. So to begin with, as usual, let's start by talking about the display on the Motorola Edge 40 Neo. It's a 6.5-inch POLED display which supports HDR10 Plus support, and it's got a fast 144Hz refresh rate. Now it's a nice overall display, nice and color accurate, nice and bright with a maximum of 1300 nits of peak brightness, and you get some nice slim bezels all around the phone, and it is slightly curved on the edges as well, which you did miss out on the Edge 30 Neo. So overall the display is really nice, it's really responsive, and that 144Hz refresh rate makes overall navigating of the phone really smooth and really responsive. And in the top center of the display you get a nice 32 megapixel selfie camera which produces some really nice photos, not the best on the market of course, but they are some pretty good photos, and portrait mode does a pretty decent job at subject separation. There's a nice amount of detail overall on the photos, and there's nice natural color reproduction, which is typical of Motorola smartphones. And with that 1300 nits of peak brightness, outdoor visibility is absolutely fine. I've got no complaints in that regard, and that is quite high peak brightness for a phone at this price point. And the display is also protected with Corning Gorilla Glass 3. So of course it's not the most sturdiest of glass on the phone. You get Corning Gorilla Glass 5, 6, Victus, blah, blah, blah. Corning Gorilla Glass 3, so it should offer a decent amount of protection from scratches and stuff like that. But I do have a screen protector on this phone, which I do with all of the phones that I review, just to keep them in tip-top shape. And of course, I recommend doing that for your phone. And you do also get a really fast under-display fingerprint scanner, which is situated a little bit lower than what I've been used to with the S22 Ultra that I have been reviewing. But it's really fast, it's really responsive. Even with the screen protector on, I've had no problems with this under-display fingerprint scanner. Absolutely fine. And the rest of the phone is pretty typical of a budget phone, not just a budget Motorola, but budget phones in general. It's an all plastic design. You've got plastic rails and a plastic back as well. But the back is kind of a vegan sort of leather design, especially on this blue model that I have here, and it makes the phone nice and grippy if you want to use it without a case. But you can also bundle the included case that you get with the phone, which matches the color of the phone as well, if you don't like using your phone without a case, a little bit like me. So overall the design of the Motorola Edge 40 Neo is great. I've got no issues with it at all. Typical plastic budget device, and it's really lightweight as well. Now, despite housing a 5,000 mAh battery, which is a nice upgrade over the just over 4,000 mAh on the Edge 30 Neo, it's still a really lightweight phone. And battery life is all day, no problem, and you still get support for that super fast 68 watt fast charging, which can get the phone from 0 to 100% in under an hour. A little bit longer, of course, and I think about the 40 minutes you could get the Edge 30 Neo 0 to 100, but of course it's got a smaller battery, so that is naturally going to be the case. So 0 to 100% in less than an hour on the Edge 40 Neo is really, really great. And that 5,000 mAh battery is enough to get me through a full day, no problem at all. And as for performance, the phone comes equipped with a MediaTek Dimensity 7030 processor built on a pretty efficient 6nm architecture, and that offers some really nice improvements in performance over the Edge 30 Neo. And you can get that paired with either 8 or 12 gigs of RAM and either 128 or 256 gigs of onboard storage. I'm actually lucky enough to have the top tier model, which is very unlike me with the phones that I have. I normally have the base models. So I've got the 12 gigs and 256 gigs of storage. So that should be absolutely plenty for everything that you need in terms of multitasking, and then plenty of storage on the phone as well. And I think the 256 gigabytes of storage is the sweet spot because you don't get a micro SD card support on this Edge 40 Neo. So if you're going to be someone that has loads of apps and loads of games and all that sort of stuff on your phone, I definitely recommend going for the 256 gig model. And as for software on the Edge 40 Neo, the phone is running Android 13 on top of a pretty stock version of Android. There is a plan to upgrade to Android 14 on this phone, but I'm not 100% sure as to when that's going to be coming. So for the moment, Android 13, and it's again, like I said, a pretty stock version of Android, like what you find on loads of other Motorola phones. There's very little bloatware or anything like that. And you do get Motorola's own app, which lets you dive deep into the customization options with one of my favorites, the chop to turn the torch on. And then of course you can do like flip to open the camera and that sort of stuff as well. There's loads of customization options with themes and wallpapers, fonts, you can change all of that sort of stuff on the Edge 40 Neo like you can with other Motorola's. And if I lastly talk about the dual camera setup on the Motorola Edge 40 Neo, it's an upgraded 50 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization, backed by that same 13 megapixel ultra wide found on the Edge 30 Neo. And overall photos from this phone are very similar to that Edge 30 Neo in terms of its color reproduction. You get a nice amount of detail. They are nice natural colors and not too vivid. And then switching to that ultra wide, the phone doesn't deviate too much from its color temperature, and detail is pretty good from that ultra wide. Of course, naturally, it's going to be less detail because it's a smaller, lower quality sensor, but overall in daylight the phone is absolutely fine in capturing some really nice natural looking photos. And should you find yourself in some slightly lower light situations, there is Motorola's night vision mode, which does help to brighten darker scenes just to bring out more detail in your shots, to make sure you've got a little bit of a steady hand just so you can hold the phone a bit steady just to get those nice sharper images in lower light. But overall the camera on the Motorola Edge 40 Neo is pretty decent, again producing some nice detailed photos with natural color. But here are some more photos and video samples from the Edge 40 Neo. Let me know what you think. So overall, that's my look at the Motorola Edge 40 Neo about 5 months or so after it was released. And I still think this is a really great phone. If you can pick it up at a good price, I think I paid just over 200 quid for this. Brand new, it'll cost you about 280, although you could probably find it a little bit cheaper than that brand new on eBay. Now, it's a really great phone. I haven't had any issues using it at all. Of course, camera wise, it's not going to be up to scratch with slightly more expensive phones, but I don't think you can complain too much. It's got a really nice stock Android experience, really reliable performance, great battery life, really fast charging. Yeah, overall, it's a really great phone. But of course, let me know down in the comments what you think of the Motorola Edge 40 Neo. Is it a phone that you'd consider buying? Are you using one? Or is there another budget phone that you would rather pick over this phone? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.